So I have a speech, but when I came in yesterday, I realized the last thing you want is a prepared speech, isn't it? So I'm going to try and talk a bit more. I'm going to ask a couple of questions. Okay, which is the biggest city, Cape Town or Johannesburg? What? Cape Town? How can that be?
It's spoken by a true Cape Townian.
Yeah, actually it's true. You know why I know? Because I had lunch with the mayor yesterday and he told me. Actually, when you include all the sort of surroundings around Joburg, it's not that. Okay. So which city has invested more in infrastructure than the other two combined? Cape Town, Johannesburg, or Durban? Yeah, I couldn't say this in Joburg. You know, I'd never get away with it. It's absolutely true. Absolutely true. And there are a lot of statistics about South Africa that are really interesting, and we'll talk a little bit more about them. I know that you're all HR professionals and really leaders in your things, in your areas, and you know a lot more than I do about this stuff, so forgive me, and thank you for that kind introduction. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to try and share a few perspectives, I think, on growth. How are you doing in the presentation? Are you getting any luck over there? No pressure, it's my fault, so. They'll get that. That's all right. So, you know, I mean, I'll tell a little bit. I mean, it's true. I was an airline pilot, and I did a lot of things. I also did my first degree. As you can tell from my voice, I was once English. I'm not sure what I am anymore, because I've been here 35 years or something, off and on. And I have little South African kids. In fact, I saw a photograph on Facebook of my little boy with a baby lion, hugging, you know, all this sort of thing. And then I showed the next photo of him later on where he's playing rugby with all sorts of young lions. So he's been playing with lions all his life, you know, one way or another. But he's a big, hulking boy now, South African boy. His name's Ayanda. And so, yeah, and I dropped out of my first degree, actually. I dropped out. I actually left my first degree. I was studying sociology, grew my hair, became a hippie, and just generally dropped out and did everything I shouldn't have done for a few years, much to the horror of my parents. And then I came back to education later, after I'd been a pilot and I'd done a few other things. And I came back to it, and I felt for many years that incomplete in myself, because I hadn't done my first degree. I mean, I don't want to, how many people here have actually done a degree, a first degree? Okay? The majority. And so you'll be interested to know that you're in a tiny minority in South Africa, tiny, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So I dropped out, and I felt that I didn't have anything. You know, I was just wandering around, and I felt somehow incomplete. Am I smart or am I not? You know, am I dumb? Everyone's got degrees, and they've got all this jargon and stuff they're talking about. And I felt kind of left out. So I eventually did an MBA, and then, to my horror, I ended up being a dean of a business school after being an academic for 15 years in UCT, where I ran the executive MBA down there. I mean, it's a bizarre story. How are you doing on a PowerPoint? Do you think it's a goer or not? Yeah. What? Oh, I like the story more. So yeah, and that's what I did, and I also worked my own way up. You know, I had nothing, and I decided I was selling office equipment. I sold used airplanes. I did door-to-door selling. I sold on the streets. I did so many different things in my life. I was a gardener, handyman. I worked in mushroom farms. I dog walked for a while. I cleaned a nuclear power station. This was all my alternate years when people in Britain would do that thing. Yes, I see you shaking your head. That's what my mum and dad did. Exactly the same. Can you imagine? But then I thought, well, what can I do? And I wanted to become a pilot. So I went to a bank manager, Mr. Berman in Barclays in the island of Jersey. I said, I want to borrow some money to become a flying instructor. And he said, okay, well, what's your collateral? Well, I didn't know what collateral meant. I had one bag which weighed 22 kilograms of all my worldly goods. I had a tool case, because I had a very beat-up old car that was using more oil than petrol. And I had a guitar, and that was it, all I had. So he said, no, I don't know what collateral is. So he looked at me and he said, okay, I'll lend you that money. And because they had something called Campari, the bankers in those days, character, assets, you know, means and all that sort of thing. They started with character, and he lent me the money. And I've been telling that story about Barclays Bank for the last 30 years. Well done, Mr. Berman. And then I went back to him for more, because he was into me then. I could borrow more. You know. And then I paid that back for 5 or 10 years. But I had nothing. But that was voluntary nothing. I chose to have nothing because I actually came from a privileged background. I came from private schools. My father was well brought up and was a war hero. And that's all the sort of stuff I did. So I chose to have nothing. But people here don't choose to have nothing. They have nothing. They really have nothing. And so nothing I did is in any way heroic. I was feckless in a sense, but I wasn't. I was really searching for something. I wanted something. I wanted more than the background I had, and I was brought up differently. But I had this awful feeling that I wasn't worth anything, but I hadn't done a degree. So that's really interesting. What percentage of South Africans do you think who start school get first degrees within 6 years of leaving school? Okay. Who thinks it's in the 40 to 50%? Nope. Who thinks it's in the 30 to 40%? No? Who thinks it's in the 20 to 30%? Yeah, okay. Who thinks it's in the 15 to 20%? Okay. Who thinks it's in the 10 to 15%? Okay. Who thinks it's in the 5 to 10%? Who thinks it's less than 5%? You're right. It's 4%. 4 people who start school in South Africa get a degree within 6 years of leaving a degree. 4. With my accent, do you know how many do it? 50%. In Finland, it's 55%. Okay, no luck with the PowerPoint? Okay, it'll come. I can chat. Okay, so that's a huge difference. It's a massive difference. So when you think about it, what happens? What's the employment rate, the unemployment rate in South Africa? Yeah, that's what Stats SA say. Yeah, 33% they say, probably more around 47%. And the youth unemployment rate, and are not in employment, educational training? Well, I don't know. I hear various stats, sometimes 45, sometimes up to 60%. That's massive. And so you've got this population in South Africa who are really different. We confuse education with intelligence, Just because you're educated, I'm terribly sorry. Terribly sorry. It doesn't mean you're intelligent. It means you had opportunity. And just because the corollary is, just because you're not educated, doesn't mean you're not intelligent, does it? Doesn't mean you're not intelligent at all. You're very, very smart. You just haven't had the opportunity. What education does is form your mind. It strengthens it. It does all these things, but it doesn't change raw intelligence. There's only one race in humanity, and that's the human race, Homo sapiens. The difference is in skin texture, colors, and all that, to do with sun and climatic adaptation. That's all it is. I mean, it becomes a huge social thing. But skin color is just an adaptation to sun. Where I come from, I need to be transparent because there's no sun. It's very dark. I need to get every little ray. Where you come from, if you live up here, you need to keep the sun away so you don't get skin cancer. So your skin goes dark over generations just to keep yourself safe. And that's the only thing that skin color is. There's nothing to it. There is only one race. That means we all have the same brain. My brain is the same as your brain. And I'll tell you a secret as well. All our brains are pretty much exactly the same. There are a few super brain people, and a lot of them are on the autistic spectrum anyway, because they're developing themselves in a sort of extraordinary way, on sort of Asperger's type people, who are very big on this way. And I come from the world of academia, and it's full of those people. And let me tell you, it's full of them. Every day, every day people, I've just been diagnosed with Asperger's. Oh, that's a surprise. Oh, so yeah, you don't know about people, and it's very hard for those people because they're struggling. So we actually all have the same brain. We have one common brain in life. One common brain. It's the same. That means our potential, each of us, male, female, dark, skin color, light, is almost exactly the same. Almost exactly the same. Whatever these idiots do when they're doing all this so-called research about race differences, it really doesn't make, it means nothing. Absolutely nothing. So we have the same brain. So we're all actually, how many of you are above average, by the way? How many of you are above average, yeah? Oh, gosh. Thank you. I'll try and make that work. So how many of you are above average? Oh, come on now, brag. How many now? You're all above average, aren't you? No. Average is the middle. You lot are below average, you lot are above average. Or maybe you lot are above average, you lot are below average. So half of all the people you meet in life are below average. It's just a statistic, it means nothing. So our brains are capable of doing whatever we want to do. So you've got 4% of South Africans who get degrees, and you've got 40% who are unemployed. Okay, that means there's 56% of people. And what do? They're super smart. And what happens to them? What happens to them? So when we're starting to think about education and what we're having to do, what happens to all these people? And there are only few get to university. You know, a tiny number actually get to university. What happens to that lot? You know, what happens to them? They're not stupid. They're clever, clever people. And you have the other great statistic about South Africa is we have the highest Gini coefficient in the world. You know what Gini, I'll tell you what it is. So if this were a room, you would find that 90% of the wealth is in that pillar there and that speaker. That's it. Or is in that size of that screen. And the rest, the other 90% of people get 10% of the wealth, more or less. So we have the highest skewness in poverty and wealth in the world. In the world. Nobody else beats us on that stat. That's not quite so cool, is it? But it's the truth. So when we start thinking about education and training and what we're doing as HR professionals and what you can do, we have to start really thinking carefully when we start applying labels like high potential or special people, exceptional people. We all want to be exceptional. We're all average, folks. We're all ordinary. I hate to say it, we're all ordinary. And you know what? That's glorious. Because what it means that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. You don't have to bundle people into your hypos or the narcissistic types of, yes, I'm really great, you know. You don't. We have this brain that we can all develop and evolve, and the mentality and the capability to really achieve everything. And that lot of people who haven't got the money and not getting the opportunity, not getting the education, not getting the healthcare, not getting the housing, not getting belief in themselves, not getting schooling that matters, not getting teachers that care about them, teachers who are not paid, all that sort of stuff. Those are really good people, and that is the true wealth of South Africa. None of our children can succeed unless all of our children succeed. None of our children can have a decent life unless all of our children have a decent life. You cannot build a South Africa that's prosperous on that dynamic. You cannot focus on the 10% or the 4% and expect to build an economy. So the question then becomes, what happens to everyone? And now I've got a presentation. I can start talking about this again here. Any questions so far? John, you're talking rubbish. I hate the fact that you called me ordinary. I love being ordinary. It's so liberating. You don't have to pretend to be so special all the time. You can just say, I'm just normal. That means that she did this, he did that. So that means I could probably do it if I really apply my mind. And it's the truth. We all have differential capabilities, but we can all really star. And it's simply a matter of work, application, discipline, self-belief, all the basics that we have to do. So I'm going to tell you a bit about Henley. That's one of our graduations. This is Prelude, our praise singer. Okay? Education is the art of making knowledge a bridge to the future. And these are the families. We're very big at Henley on family-friendly learning. We don't believe in the MBA Marriage Breakup Academy. Loyiso Bala, by the way, Loyiso Bala, who did our postgrad diploma, and he did our MBA, changed the MBA to the Making Babies Academy, because he had 3 babies while he was doing all that. His poor wife. I know what she went through during those years when he was studying as well. And we have some fantastic people. We've got Shlubi and Boyer, we've got the Beasts, we've got musicians, we've got artists, we've got investigative journalists, we have all sorts of people on our MBAs. But that's what it is. And Prelude, he's a praise singer. Prelude has done our postgrad diploma and is going on to the MBA next. And he's a fantastic praise singer. And he comes up with this praise poet whose woman's name I forget, who's fantastic. They do this double, and he storms on stage and and all that sort of stuff. He's an amazing character, terrifies me. I sit there in my gowns and he's like this, sure, Prelude, back off. It's like a big guy. And he's amazingly, and he's so kind. But that's what our graduations look like. They celebrate life, they celebrate family, they celebrate the potential for people. Those are the people who are going to build South Africa, those faces. They're really dedicated. And when we graduate, we see half the room, or 2/3 of the room, is full of family. It's full of the grandmas and the chochos and all the old kids and the grandchildren, the aunts and the uncles. And the graduation is for them. Can you imagine what they went through to get their kids up there? Can you imagine? Can you imagine how it feels for them now, the generations of sacrifice and no opportunity they've had to see their kid up there doing that? That's what we celebrate when we're graduating. It's amazing. You know, and that's what we do. The academic world, all that, this pomp and circumstances, self-importance, it means nothing. We're there to give those people a validation for their life. They suffered, and look what you've suffered for. We all suffer for our kids, right? Look at your kids, look what they're doing. And the kids all stand up and they shout thank you to all that lot. And we have dancing. We actually have the academics dancing sometimes, which is very awkward because academics can't dance. You know, it's like disjointed spiders as they're on their way to write a paper about what they're doing. You know, they're not known for their body, their kinesthetic intelligence. As I said, you know, they're a different lot. Yeah, and so that's it. And I'm going to come back to that one. And I'm going to start something else. So when we think again about why we're educating people, you know, we're in companies, and all your companies say, we must get profit. The purpose of a business to make profit, right? 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 Purpose of a business is to make profit. That's the purpose of your business, right? I want you to imagine for a moment, you walk into a business whose sole purpose is to make profit. Imagine I'm going to business, and this business only wants profit. Now, I want you to imagine what it feels like walking into that business. How does that feel? Do you feel valued? Do you feel like exploited? No, that's not the sole purpose of a business. Sorry, I'm going back to that one. It's a pretty picture. The purpose of a business is not to create profit. That's not the purpose of a business. It's rubbish. Of course, a business has to make profit. Of course. But that's not the purpose of your business. The purpose of your business is the purpose of your business. Our purpose is we build the people who build the businesses that build Africa. And that's what we do. We build the people who build the businesses that build Africa. That's our purpose. So we have to build people so they understand themselves, they get cognitive capabilities, they can do system thinking, they can be critical thinkers, they can work on projects, they can self-review, they can do reflective thinking, they start to understand themselves, they can engage with others, they can be real people, you know, they can be themselves, they can trust their own brains, they can learn how brilliant it is to feel your brain being really good, and you build them. And by doing difficult things and succeeding, they build. You can't say, you're fantastic, yay, go away and conquer the world. No, you're going to kill them all. You know, because they won't know how. You've got to actually teach them how and teach them about themselves. You've got to teach. You've got an ordinary brain, right? Look at these people with ordinary brains. Look what they've done. How about you? Yeah, but I can't play music. Yeah, but you can do other stuff. What do you like doing? So that's our purpose, to build a people. And those people then must go and build businesses. In fact, if our people don't build businesses, don't go back in and make your businesses better and succeed, then we haven't done our job. And if those businesses don't grow and build a better country, better Africa, then we haven't done our job either. So we're very focused on what we do. It's not about making profit. If we don't make profit, what happens to us? We go out of business. So we have to be very astute. And we've built a business school, which I'll show you later, which has been very successful without one shred, one cent, one anything, one rand of investment ever. We have one loan, which we pay back at market rates. But we've gone from 5 people in a room to 115, from 30 graduates to over 2,000, you know, from a few hundred students now to 4,500 a year. And then we've had a room space not much bigger than this to 4 big buildings. And we've done it while we paid off debts, while we're paying off the UK, because we're part of UK business, and never received 1 cent. And we did it, and I'm an employee, I don't own it. I get a salary, I'm very grateful for it. But our passion is to build education. So we focus on, so what do we do to purpose our business? What's the purpose of your business? If it's not making profit, I'm sorry. If it's not making profit, what is the purpose? What is your business doing? What is the value you're creating in the world in your business? Do you know? Have you worked it out? Because if you haven't worked it out, you don't know the business model. Business is all about creating value, not profit. Value. Value that people feel and changes and improves their lives. That's what business is about. Sure, it's hijacked for exploitativeness, and sure, we live in a competitive world, but ask yourself, do you want your kid to go to an education system that's hyper-competitive or hyper-collaborative? Which would you rather? Which one? The second one? Collaborative. Now, some of you are lying, I know, because I've seen the mums and dads at school. Oh, we're going to do this. Oh, we're going to do this. Get an A, get an A. You somehow think that forcing your kids to get an A is going to help them. Oh, no, man, don't do that. It's not that important. I'm sorry, it's not that important. It really isn't. It's what you do, what we do as HR people, help people engage, be themselves, be authentic, bring more of themselves to the party, bring more of me to the party. That's what makes them special. You know, that's very interesting. So collaborative environments are generally better for learning, aren't they? So let's think about the collaboration we create within our businesses. We think business is all about competition, but surely the collaborative advantage in business is more powerful than the competitive advantage. Why don't you think more about the people you can join up with, your suppliers you work with, the complementers for you? That is the thing that is more powerful than competition. It's just that competition is easy to grapple. You know, we're competitive, we're going to do this. Yes, I'm target-driven. Somehow that's good, but the world is too complex for that simplicity. Well, it's far too complex and be target-driven. You've got to have a nuanced mind. You've got to be sensitive to what's going on around the place. If you're playing in a band, you don't just play your bit in competition with everyone else. Some bands do. You're sitting there, you're sensing everyone around you, you're shifting with the musician, you're kicking the drummer because he's out of time, whatever it is you're doing. You know, you're making it work like that. So when we think about what we're doing to build businesses, we're trying to build a country. What sort of country are we trying to build? What's the economy like? Let's have a look at a graphic picture of some economies. This is the economy of Vietnam in about 1995. Yellows and greens are things you grow and raw basic things that you make, you know, so that's textiles and men's shirts. The number of little squares is the richness of the cluster, you know, the cluster, the suppliers and the shirt makers and the button makers and all that sort of stuff. It's a cluster. And you can see that nearly everything in Vietnam was about primary things or digging stuff out of the ground and selling it without any beneficiation or thing, just basic agrarian economy. Thank you for doing that, because it's normally me. Whoever that is, you've just made me feel a lot better. In fact, I think I forgot to turn off my one as well, so thank you. I appreciate that. And the blues and the purples, you know what the blues and the purples are? Those are high-tech industries, complex industries, the sort of industries you want your kids to go, yeah, man, I want to be in Industry 4.0, I want to be IoT, that's me, I want to do all this, tell me all about digital, that's going to save my life, get off your screen, start living a life. You know, it's more than that. That was it. Now look at them, look at the color change over 25 years. If this works, well, it should work. Whoa. Look at it now. That's how it was. That's how it is 25 years later. Hugely bigger and completely transformed. Can you imagine living in that country? The dynamism, the cars, the roads, the IT, the infrastructure, the industry of people doing, and all these factories and high-tech and high-knowledge things, the learning they'd all have had to have done, the TVETs and the polytechnics and the universities and the in-company learning they'd all had. Imagine what it's like being an HR person in one of those companies. Dynamic, exciting, I'm building the country, you know what I mean? It's, wow, what a transformation from that to now a massively complex, look, they're right next to China, so they had an advantage. But anyway, it's just a totally different country. And that's a country that was shredded by war. You know, I don't know if you've been there, I've been there. It's actually a lovely place. So let's look at South Africa 25 years ago, okay? Digging things out of the ground, in platinum, ferroalloy, wood, raw sugarcane, some raw materials, some fruits, all that sort of stuff. Mainly we're digging things out of the ground and selling it. By the way, that's another problem, because when you dig things out of the ground and sell it, it all goes offshore. Somebody gets all the beneficiation. And if you decide to steal it, you're taking money out of the economy, you know, and you're shoving it off to Dubai. No names mentioned, I'm just saying. All right, it goes off to Dubai, it's sitting there. That money goes out of the economy, so the multiplier effect is lost. So what are we doing as HR professionals? What's our purpose here? It's not to just help your company make a profit. Oh yeah, but I'm going to get fired if I don't do that. No, your companies have a purpose. Understand the real business model. A lot of even directors don't understand the business model. When you grow a company like we have, you deeply understand what it is you're producing. We're building the people who are building the businesses that are building Africa. That's us. That's what we do, nothing else. We make money, sure, not a lot, because we put it back every year. And so we grow. Now look at South Africa. Look at that color. Now look at the transformation in South Africa over 20 years. Oops. Wait a minute. Do you notice the difference? Minuscule difference. We're still doing the same things. Unlike Vietnam, which has completely transformed itself and given opportunity for all those people who are in poverty by creating massive new sectors and jobs, by having people whose concern is building the country, not robbing it, or not waiting for somebody to give them something. I'm sorry, no names mentioned. Forgive me if you think I'm wrong here. I'll be, you can beat me up. But it's true. The people who's suffering? Who's suffering? It's this people who aren't getting the opportunity. That's who's suffering when the country is not growing properly. People in Vietnam aren't suffering. People in South Africa, still the same thing, and the economy has not grown. So what do we do as HR people? Our job is not to help our companies succeed, but to help the country succeed. And if your company is not moving and it's focused just on making profit, your company will die because it's not creating new value. And sharper, cleverer competitors will take over, thank goodness, because we need them to grow and to give opportunity for new people. Get on board with those companies as well. Be that company. So as HR people, we need to believe in the people we're doing, that they can do these sort of transformations. You have to have a bigger imagination about what people are like, what they can do, how they can be. Believe. Really believe in yourself and them. We transformed at Henley from 20% women to 55% women on our courses, 30% black to 85% black. Okay? On our MBA, which we do with Malaysia, we do with Germany, we do with Stockholm and China, Finland rather, and with the UK, our students are blind assessed with them in the same pool. Guess who does well? The South Africans, blind assessed, they star. And the people who come out to teach our students, that's the best place they ever come to teach. I love coming to South Africa to teach. They're so animated, they're so engaging. We have proper conversations, they have motivation, they want to learn. This is our country, my adopted country. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. This is the country you live in. This is us. Yeah, how it is. Believe. Because if we don't believe, you'll never believe you can shift that dynamic. So those 90%, that wealth can change. And who's got the biggest tools to make that happen? You have, because you're holding the tools of training and development on people. Your belief in people is what dictates the result. I completely lost track of time, so somebody tell me what I'm doing. 10 minutes left. Okay, well, I have a much longer presentation. The other thing is that when we look at, this is not a presentation I gave, but the World Economic Forum said 44% of workers' score kills are expected to change in the past 5 years. And they should do. Look what happened in Vietnam. They all changed. And we can do it. Because we're ordinary people, that means, and ordinary people did this, that means we can do it as well. Unless you really want to be so exceptionally ordinary and that's really valuable to you. I love being ordinary. It's just so liberating. Okay, and that's the second. Let's have a look at our education system. What's it doing? Now, the truth is that the grade 4s who cannot read in any language have got fewer over the years. They can't read in any language. Our education system, I'm sorry, this is not about government. This is not about politics. This is about the machine we have created that lets people have potential. It's not delivering. And whatever your passion or your affiliation or alliance is with anybody, this machine is not working. We need a better machine. And so one of the better machines is us, is you in organization. You are the better machine. If you believe in yourself, you become radicals, you become revolutionaries, you become the people that people will tell their grandparents about. I told you about Mr. Berman. They'll talk about you, they'll talk about you. They'll talk about you. This guy, this woman I met, they transformed me. They gave me a belief in myself I never believed I had. And look what I've done. That's your job. You're building another generation of prosperity in the future. That's your job. And through the companies, you can do this. Look what happens here. So this is, again, another score. Language capability. African language schools declined significantly. Inequality increased. The English and Afrikaans schools did better. So what the heck's going on there? Where are the people? The people are here. This is where the people are. This is what has to go up. This bottom curve has to shoot up because that's the future. That's the talent for the country. And they are capable. They're very smart people, you know. And here's another one. This is like, this is very interesting. So, poor, non-eligible, not eligible, poor, not eligible. Okay. Enrollments in universities. So TVETs, you've got poor people enrolled. What we're looking at here is eligible people. Fundamentally what this is saying, and I'll come back to deconstruct it later, that we're only getting a tiny number of people who are eligible to go to university or TVETs going. It's a very small proportion. Why is that? What we're having here is the university rate, enrollment rate in South Africa is very low. We're better than sub-Saharan Africa, but we're lower than everybody else. Why in a country like ours? It's crazy. If you look at the number of skills who have the skills for the current economy, according to the OECD, only 55% of South Africans have the skills for what we're doing right now. Right now, not something futurist. Imagine those skills, imagine the skills you're trying to build for the economy. Now, how do economies change? They build businesses that deliver those skills. Your businesses, the new businesses that come up, they're moving into those areas. If you get those skills, you're going to create economy for yourself. You're going to create opportunity for yourself. And we're also what we say a transitional economy. We dig things out the ground here. We dig them out the ground. That's what's called a resource-driven economy. In the middle are these transitional economies, which are more like the ones who are adding the high tech we saw in Vietnam. And then you've got these really innovation-driven economies like South Korea, Singapore. South Korea was poorer than South Africa not so long ago. It was poorer than South Africa not so long ago. It was devastated. And they made it work by educating and sending people overseas, bringing the educators back, had a long conversation. So what we're looking at is an economy here, which we don't want to sink back there. That's like failing state. We want to move up from here in here. We want to move up and get more technology, more capability. That's what you're doing. Now, you're in a company and you're constrained by that because the company tells you what to do. But nonetheless, you're going to have to help your company innovate by starting to produce the people they can innovate on. You won't always get the support from directors for that, I'm sorry to say, unless you've got very enlightened directors. And these are some of the skills on the rise. According to the World Economic Forum in 2023, you've all seen this before. Why do we need creative thinking? Well, why do we need creative thinking? What does that mean? Why is that so important? Is the world stable? No. Is the world changing? No. Do you know where it's changing to? Well, you might if you're very pessimistic. It's all going to a mess and we're all in a dystopian future and the whole thing's going to fall apart. It's not. Why not? Because we're going to stop it doing it. And that's always the way it's been over millennia. People have stopped it falling apart. And we are those people right now. Okay? We need creative thinking because you've got to create new forms of value. You've got to think about the organization and talent in new ways. It's not what we did in the past. You've got to imagine it. It's very hard. I know this is hard work. Okay? 23% of today's jobs will change. You've seen all these stats. That's important. We actually want about 50% of today's jobs to change in South Africa. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about tertiary education. I'm not going to talk about that. But I am going to show you this. This is a validation of what I said about the 4%. This is from Nick Spall in Stellenbosch. Of 100 school people, 60 take matric, 37 pass of the 100 who started, 14 bachelor passes, 12 diploma passes, 12 go to university, 9 immediately, 3 later, 6 complete some sort of undergraduate degree, and 4 get a degree. 4. Now, it's 50%. What happens to the rest of these people? Well, I'll tell you what happens to the rest of these people. They're here. They're in your companies. A lot of them get unemployed. A lot of them go into companies, and now they start working. What are they working at? They're working in jobs, and they're doing complex work. You train them, but they're doing complex work. They're doing work way beyond their education qualification level. And they're starting to feel like I felt, oh, am I validated? I didn't do my degree. I'm not sure I'm smart. And something erodes and eats away in them. They start stopping believing in themselves. That's not what's happening. They won't tell you this, but it's happening. They're not sure of themselves. Your job, my job, is to make them understand how smart they are and make them sure of themselves, because they are smart. We have a massive hosepipe of people coming out of education, poor education, Some of them are tiny, narrow slits who get degrees. The rest of them do what? They go into your companies, supervisors, call center managers, great people in the office you know, and they're doing great jobs. They want a qualification. They want to validate themselves. And what's the one skill that's going to get all of them up in their careers? One skill. The one skill that's going to make all of them succeed. One skill. What would you give somebody if you wanted to give somebody a skill that you knew wherever they went they would probably do well? What would it be? What? Maybe creativity, whatever. Think more generally. What? What was that? Attitude, yeah. That's kind of, yeah, that's a skill, I guess.
Confidence to unlock it so that they believe in themselves.
Confidence. So what do your people do? What do we call it? Well, we lead, don't we? What's the other thing we do we don't lead? What's the other thing we do? Manage, okay. And management is a very poor thing, isn't it? It's just like managers aren't clever. They're just people that... Leaders are what it's all about. I'm a leader. Leaders, good leaders, tell you where to lean the ladder against the wall. Managers are what got everybody to climb the ladder. Are we climbing ladders in South Africa? No. We have a management vacuum. All these people, they're trying their best, they're not that stupid, but you can teach management. Management practice is learnable, but you can't just learn it in the classroom. It's got to be experiential. It's got to be tying up with your business. If you gave everybody the capability to manage better in South Africa, what would happen to South Africa? Would money be used better? Would they understand the problems they're facing better? Would they be able to analyze the problems, know what to do better? Would they solve them quicker and better? Yeah? Would the companies improve? Would the value be increased for their clients? Yeah? Would they use less money doing it? Would they become more efficient? Would they get more profit? Management capability is the one thing that goes right across all jobs, and we're not teaching it. We think we are with our management competency frameworks and our clever tools and whatever, but management is complex. You read up Henry Mintzberg from 20, 30 years ago, he talks about the 10 attributes of management. There's many characteristics of management you can do. In fact, I've got them here. So, Mintzberg talked about a manager as having 3 key roles: interpersonal roles, informational, and decisional. And the interpersonal roles are being a figurehead. That's kind of like a leadership role. Managers are leaders too, by the way. And the best leaders come through management. They don't get helicoptered in because they're somebody's mate or because they did a strategy course. I used to teach strategy for a long time, and I used to say, everybody, this is an MBA strategy course. Right, you want to do strategy? Yeah, we want to do strategy. Which would you rather be, an expert on strategy or an expert strategist? Which would you rather be? 2 different worlds of learning. An expert on management, we can say all the jargon, or somebody who can really manage the heck out of everything and take a little thing and make it. Entrepreneurs are people who succeed without the resources necessary for success. Entrepreneurs are people who succeed without the resources that are necessary for success. So entrepreneurs never have enough resources. When you get somebody sitting about, I don't have enough resources to do this, it's not resources they're short of, it's resourcefulness. It's their ability to think through. That's what we need. So we have. So that's the leader thing, the liaison, juggling people, getting people to decide, informational, monitoring information, getting good data. Oh, so hard. Disseminating good data, not complex data, but making sense of it, interpreting it, the one-sheet summary of the whole campaign. You know, the one thing, not massive books of analysis. You don't want data, you don't even want analysis and information. You want intelligence. The one page of deep intelligence, so you know what to do. That's what great managers and leaders do. And then spokesperson, got to be able to do that. Manage decisional, manage disturbances, resource allocators, negotiators. You know, we're not teaching that stuff. It's basic. Well, we are a bit. But imagine if you did that, what it would be like. So that's some of the problems we're having in our schooling system. Okay? The number of school teachers, that's it. So that's in Finland, and that's in South Africa. Okay? Now, I'm saying this, I don't want you to be depressed. I want you to be excited. Because you know what that gap means? We have such a fantastic opportunity. If we focus on that, what's going to happen? 5%, 10%, 15%. You give people, you could, like we do, we give people qualifications. The average age of our level 5 qualification, which is post-matric, you can do it straight after matric, is 37. Why? Because there's all these people sitting in companies who haven't got qualification. The average age is 37. There's millions of them. We're ignoring them. Get them going. They'll drive your company up. And I hope a lot of them will leave to start new businesses. Because if you want to invest in somebody, do you want to invest in a student with no experience or somebody who's been through 20 years of corporate experience and stuff and has got a degree, then I'd invest in that person. And there's plenty of truth. You got a question? No, you look like you did. I was going to give you 10 extra points. How much longer have I got? -1 minute? -1 minute. Okay. So I'm just going to say that. I think that's a Gini curve. Oh, yes. The last thing I want to leave you with. We often talk about vision. We often talk about strategy. And we never talk about business models. We don't even know what they are properly. What's a business model? A business model is somebody wants something, you work out how to give it to them, you do it in a way that nobody else can, so everyone comes to you because you're doing it well, they give you money, and you reinvest the money back in the thing that made you do that thing better and differently. Simple as that. That's all companies are. Business model. Now, if you have vision, which is about imagination and visualization and dreaming what we can do, that's a skill. You have to develop that. You can't get vision by looking at your boots and reading an analytical report. Vision is courageous, it's brave, it's scary. And it can't be just wild. And strategy is how you organize things over a long period of time, not to be certain what's going to happen, but to increase the probability of what you're doing to happen. Because everyone wants a certain strategy. It doesn't work. They don't exist. There is no such thing as a certain strategy. Life is too variable. Life is what happens when you're making other plans, according to John Lennon. Okay? Strategy is a hope. It's a hypothesis. It's a dream. You try and make it happen, but it helps you get there. And then the business model is how you create value. What is your machine in a company that creates value and innovation for people out there and also produce some profit for you? Okay? So if you only have vision and a business model, you lose direction because you haven't got strategy. If you've only have vision and a strategy, you lose your money because you don't know how to manage it or create a machine that will make value for you. And if you only have strategy and a business model, you won't be sustainable because you've got no vision. Other people who are more visionary will understand what's going on in the economy. So our job as HR leaders is far more important, far more important than what we think of when we're in a desk looking at a competence framework. Your job is to build the people who build the businesses that build Africa. Thank you.